My younger sister and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier were deeply in love. For her sake, he wouldn't even eat chicken, duck, or fish. Every time my brother saw my younger sister, he couldn't help but sigh and wish that Ninglan was his real sister. Everyone loved her, and no one remembered that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had once been my fiancé. He clearly didn't like me, but he personally requested an imperial decree for our marriage, and then framed me for meeting someone in secret. Also that his younger sister could become the legitimate daughter. My chastity was ruined, and when I ended my life with a piece of white silk, they were celebrating their wedding, envied by all. Afterward, my elder brother knew the truth but kept it hidden, merely sighing that I was unlucky and couldn't compare to Ninglan. Reborn on the day of the imperial marriage decree. This time, no one will get their wish. The emperor decreed, the legitimate daughter of the Jiang family is gentle and virtuous, with the grace of an orchid and the heart of a lily. She is hereby betrothed to the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. My mother, filled with joy, presented a generous pouch and saw off the eunuch who delivered the imperial decree. My daughter will soon be the Marquis's wife. The imperial decree did not mention my name, for I was the only legitimate daughter of the Jiang family. Everyone assumed the arranged marriage was meant for me. I forced a smile, but she did not notice. At that moment, she was the only one rejoicing over this marriage. My elder brother frowned. Mother, Ning Shui has a stubborn temper. Before the marriage, you must teach her properly. Don't let her cause any trouble after she's married. If it were Ninglan, perhaps only I understood his unspoken words. He wanted to say that if the marriage had been granted to Ninglan, it would have been better. He was my own flesh and blood, yet he preferred the quiet and timid Ninglan, who would shyly call him brother and sew him embroidered pouches and socks. As for me, I knew nothing but eating, drinking, and playing. I glanced at Ninglan beside me. She was the youngest daughter in the family. Though a concubine's daughter, she had been raised by the old lady and never lacked for anything. Today, she was wearing a light-colored brocade robe with subtle patterns, which was modestly luxurious and made her look exceptionally beautiful. However, she had always been shy, and I had never noticed her before. At this moment, there was no joy on her face. Of course, she was unhappy. She had been secretly in love with the Marquis of the Northern Frontier for a long time, but now everyone was congratulating me. I sat before the mirror, touching my neck. It was as white as jade, free from the terrifying bruises of my previous life. On this day in my previous life, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had not asked me, but had gone ahead and requested an imperial edict granting us marriage. At that time, I had someone I loved, Song Yurong, but I knew that the imperial edict could not be disobeyed. I couldn't ruin my entire family for the sake of one person, so I put all my feelings away and prepared to live quietly as the Marquis of the Northern Frontier's wife. Just as I was breaking up with Song Yurong, I ran into the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, who was out sightseeing with my brother. He was furious and claimed that the Jiang family looked down on him. He was the emperor's confidant and the youngest marquis in the court. The Jiang family couldn't afford to offend him, so my father was so angry that he almost beat me to death. In the end, it was the old lady who made the decision. My reputation was ruined, and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier would not want to marry me. But we couldn't disobey the emperor's order. We would register Ninglan as his legitimate daughter and marry her to the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. When the time came, we would give her a generous dowry to make up for Ninglan and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. It was the old lady who came up with the idea. This family really couldn't do without you, my father said ingratiatingly. I don't like Ninglan, but I also feel guilty toward her. I caused this mess, and now she has to clean it up. And even Song Yurong has been dragged into it. My father scolded me, asking why I didn't just die, and my older brother blamed me for being shameless. A white silk ribbon became my fate. After I died, I didn't reincarnate. Instead, I drifted around the Jiang mansion. Ninglan shed a tear for my death. Second sister is truly pitiful. The old lady hugged her and comforted her. Lan'er, you are just too kind-hearted. It's all that girl Ningshue's fault for not knowing her place. She bullied you since childhood, always talking about being the legitimate daughter. And now she has done something that brings shame to the family. But the Marquis of the Northern Frontier is actually willing to go to such lengths for you. He is a good man after all. Ninglan blushed and nodded. He knows I was bullied because I was a concubine's daughter. So he fought for me to be recognized as a legitimate daughter. But will mother agree? The old lady smiled indifferently. Her daughter did such a thing. How could she have the face to oppose it? Besides, during the last ancestral worship ceremony back home, I already changed your status to that of a legitimate daughter. I listened to this with my heart breaking. What a pair of deeply affectionate grandmother and granddaughter. It turned out that they had known about what the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had done all along. They always said that they would rise and fall together. But when it came down to it, they let outsiders ruin my reputation. Song Yurong and I were promiscuous. But she and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had a deep friendship. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier wanted to make Ninglan his legitimate daughter. But she had already become his legitimate daughter when no one knew about it. Why go to all this trouble to plot against me? My mother would never have wanted this. When I die, my mother and brother will surely find out everything and not let the Marquis of the Northern Frontier have his way. I floated toward my mother's courtyard. Mother, Ningxue is dead. The most important thing now is to not break the marriage alliance with the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. My brother didn't show the slightest bit of sadness in his eyes. As if it was an insignificant stranger who had died. He was trying hard to persuade my mother to give Ninglan the dowry that was originally prepared for me, so that Ninglan would have more confidence. My mother cried until her eyes were red and swollen. But she still agreed after my brother's persuasion. After all, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier was a powerful and influential person who could help my brother in the future. Even the closest relatives were like this. I watched numbly as I was hastily buried. Half a year later, the entire mansion was filled with joy as they sent Ninglan off to her wedding, with a procession of red decorations stretching for miles. Envy of all who saw it. Looking at my vibrant reflection in the mirror, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Miss. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing. I just thought of something funny. My mother dragged me aside every day, telling me about the dowry she had prepared for me. Today it was a pearl necklace from the Treasure Pavilion. Tomorrow it was a brocaded silk gown from the Rainbow Pavilion. I didn't feel the same reluctance as in my previous life. Every day I happily showed off my dowry. My elder brother frowned and scolded me. How can you be so shameless? Can't you learn to be as composed as Lan'er? Ninglan still smiled timidly. Sister, you are so lively and lovely. I'm sure the Marquis of the Northern Frontier likes you just the way you are. I couldn't hide the anxiety in my eyes. I was afraid that I would really marry the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. That day, I received a letter from Song Yurong. He said that he was not good enough for me and asked me to forget about our relationship. He just wanted to see me one last time to end things. I burned the letter without expression. In our previous life, when we met at the Xiangguo Temple, we were caught by the Marquis of the Northern Frontier and my brother. When I ended my life with a piece of white silk, I was worried that I would drag him down with me. Later, however, with the help of the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, he was promoted and became rich. Once, when he was drunk, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier said to him, "Brother, Jiang Ningxue is dead, and I owe you a wife. But don't worry. I will definitely compensate you." It turned out that he had colluded with the Marquis of the Northern Frontier long ago, so that he could coincidentally see our secret meeting. He did this in order to expose our relationship and force me, a legitimate daughter with a damaged reputation. To marry him, so that he could control me in the future. Although I died under the Marquis of the Northern Frontier's manipulation, Song Yurong accidentally saw a legitimate daughter of an official changing her clothes, and the two were forced to agree to a marriage contract. That legitimate daughter was gentle and virtuous. But after marriage, she was tortured by Song's mother until she miscarried. Song Yurong then used this as an excuse to take dozens of concubines. On the day mentioned in the letter, I did not go. Instead, I stayed safely in my bedroom and placed the prepared spices in my pouch. My failure to keep the appointment made Song Yurong anxious. And he sent another letter, when the mountains are level and the heavens and earth are joined. Only then will I dare to part with you. Ning Shui. I have nothing else to ask for. Only to see you one last time and end my longing. There is love in this world. And this hatred has nothing to do with the wind and the moon. When I burned the 7th letter, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier could no longer sit still and asked me out himself. I still refused. There would be plenty of opportunities to see each other after we were married. And now that I had little time left at home, I just wanted to spend it with my parents and fulfill my filial duty. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier couldn't refute this reason. He wanted to expose the affair between Song Yurong and me, but he couldn't make a big deal out of it and damage the reputation of the entire Jiang family, which would also affect his beloved Ning Lan. He wanted Ning Lan to receive everyone's guilt and compensation while ensuring I obediently followed his plan. This matter could only be exposed by the Jiang family themselves. My father and mother were impossible candidates. The old matriarch prided herself on fairness and would never do such a thing openly. There was only one person left. My elder brother placed a piece of lotus flower cake from the Drunken Immortal Pavilion in front of me. Ning Shui. Why haven't you been going out lately? I picked up a piece of lotus flower cake and took a bite. The lotus flower cake is a famous pastry from the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Sold only 20 pieces a day. With a long line to buy them. I never had such treatment before. My elder brother has always said I'm not steady enough. And marrying out might cause a scandal. I think he's right. So I'm using this time to study etiquette and cultivate my mindset. Before you know it, you'll be married. I've reflected on myself lately and realized I was too harsh with you. Ning Shui. Don't worry. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you. After you get married, you won't be as free as you are now. Take advantage of this time to go out and have fun. It was the first time in my life that I had heard such kind words. Seeing the concern and reluctance on his face, I remembered the day Ning Lan married the Marquis of the Northern Frontier in my previous life. He was drunk as a skunk, muttering, "Laner, Laner. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier truly loves you. He went through great hardship to secure the status of legitimate daughter for you. Ning Lan is dead, so no one will ever fight with you for anything again. You will live a happy life." He knew that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had framed me, but he still considered him a friend. My death was insignificant in his eyes. He even rejoiced that my death was good for Ning Lan. I didn't understand why he was so indifferent to his own sister. Until I saw the pain in his eyes when he called out to Ning Lan. I seemed to understand. Ha ha ha. How ridiculous. He was still trying to persuade me with kind words. I lowered my eyes and pretended to know nothing, since you say so. Brother. I'll go out and clear my head. Brother. In our previous life, everyone got what they wanted. In this life, it's my turn to get what I want. Although I didn't become smarter after being reborn and couldn't find a way to save myself, at least I cut off everyone else's escape route. Behind the temple of the Prime Minister's residence, there was a peach blossom grove. It was March, and the peach blossoms were in full bloom, falling gently to the ground. When I arrived, I saw Song Yurong standing under the tree, tall and graceful, truly refined and elegant. Who could have guessed that beneath such a noble and virtuous exterior lay a heart as filthy as the depths of hell? Ning Shui. You've finally come. I took a step forward, gripped the hairpin tightly in my hand, and plunged it into his heart under his loving gaze. In this world, anyone who harms a woman using the guise of chastity deserves to die. I'm here to send you on your way. On the path to the underworld. Remember who killed you. Before he could say a word, I pushed him off the cliff. The hairpin was coated with animal attractant powder. Perhaps he would survive the fall and experience the agony of being devoured by wild beasts. I cleaned up all the traces, then sat safely under the tree to enjoy the flowers. A quarter of an hour later, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier arrived with my brother. Seeing me alone, they were both very surprised. Second Miss Jiang, why are you here alone? The Marquis of the Northern Frontier joked. Who else could it be? Could I possibly be meeting someone else in secret? I covered my mouth and laughed softly. Not at all. It's just that it's not safe for a young lady to be out alone. You should find someone to accompany you. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier laughed heartily. It was impossible to tell that such a general who fought on the battlefield was so skilled in domestic intrigue and dirty tricks. We chatted idly for a while. But the Marquis of the Northern Frontier looked around left and right and still didn't see the person he wanted to see. Song Yuron was already at the bottom of the cliff, probably being eaten by wild beasts at this moment. I smiled at the two of them, thinking about what was about to happen, my heart boiling with excitement. It is fate that we have met. If the Marquis does not mind, would you like to have a cup of tea with me? Xiangguo Temple has a separate courtyard for high-ranking officials and nobles to rest while burning incense. I remained composed, pouring tea for them with graceful movements. The two of them drank it in one gulp, their minds elsewhere. Please wait here for a moment. I have made some peach blossom cakes for you to try. Seeing their flushed faces, I kindly closed the door for them. Who says only women care about chastity? I'll see if they can still be good brothers after this. A quarter of an hour later, I heard noises inside and smiled. Then I took a deep breath and screamed, the sound echoing throughout the temple. Ah! What's going on? What happened? Did bandits break in? Passing pilgrims heard the noise and gathered nearby. Hearing the faint sounds from inside, everyone knew what was happening. Chen the censor's wife recognized me. Isn't that Miss Jiang? Who's inside? I covered my face and cried, unable to speak. Whoever did this in Shokakuji Temple deserves to die. Someone! Break down the door! The smell inside the room was nauseating. Everyone covered their noses and went inside, only to see a large bed. It was the Marquis of the Northern Frontier and the eldest son of the Jiang family. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier was a newcomer to the imperial court, and his older brother was well known for his integrity. Many people knew them. One was Miss Jiang's brother, and the other was Miss Jiang's fiancé. This. Let's go get Mr. Jiang. The two on the bed also came to their senses and saw everything in front of them. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier looked at me with a murderous gaze. Miss Jiang. You are so cruel. I just covered my mouth and cried, You are so shameless. At this point, you still want to kill me to cover up your crime? Everyone spoke at once. Marquis of the Northern Frontier. Why are you threatening a little girl like this? We all saw what happened today. Can you really kill us all? Miss Jiang, you have to think positively. Amidst the chaos, my father and mother hurriedly arrived and took us away. In the Jiang family hall, my father sat at the head of the table with a gloomy expression, while my mother looked dazed, still not daring to believe what she had seen. Her perfect son with a bright future had snatched her younger sister's husband. Heaven! What has happened? The Marquis of the Northern Frontier recounted the events. Second Miss Jiang was so ruthless, shameless, and short-sighted that she disregarded her family ties and used such despicable means to frame her own family. She was truly despicable and hateful. Her elder brother was overcome with grief. As a civil official, how could he possibly face the court now that such a scandal had erupted? Ning Shui, what have I ever done to you that you would destroy my life like this? When my father heard about this, he wanted to kill me. He slapped me across the face and shouted, "You worthless creature! I should have strangled you at birth. I raised you with the best food and clothing. And now you want to destroy the Jiang family." I wasn't going to stand there and take it. I turned my head away. My mother wept bitterly. What is this all for? How did our once happy family come to this? Ha 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 ha. Of course it's because they plotted against me first. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier likes Ninglan. He knew very well that I had someone I loved. But he deliberately asked for my hand in marriage. Then, together with my brother, he caught us in the act and ruined my reputation. That way, the Jiang family would feel indebted to him and recognize Ninglan as his legitimate daughter, allowing her to marry him in a grand wedding. My brother knew the truth. But for the sake of Ninglan and to maintain good relations with the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, not only did he not tell me, he repeatedly encouraged me to go out so that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier would have the opportunity to catch us in the act. Brother, am I not your sister? How dare you question me? I have no grudge against them, but they harmed me in the most vicious way possible for their own personal gain. If it weren't for the Marquis of the Northern Frontier's martial arts skills, I would have pushed him off the cliff at the Xiangguo Temple long ago and gone to be with Song Yurong. The scene was silent. The truth was too bizarre for everyone to accept. My mother could not believe it and asked my brother, "Is this true?" At this point, there was no point in hiding it anymore. So my brother said in a deep voice, "Mother, I did this for Ning Shui's sake. She has a stubborn temper and is not suitable for marriage into the Marquis family." I clapped my hands and said, "Brother, you are right. Family members should love and care for each other. You did this for my sake, and I am repaying you by doing this. You've always wanted to have a good relationship with the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, but marrying off one sister wasn't enough to guarantee it. Now that you have this connection with him, he will sincerely promote you." My brother's face turned ashen. With this connection, the literati would never accept him. More than 10 years of hard study had been destroyed in an instant. My mother looked left and right, then let out a cry and pounced on Ninglan, who had not dared to say a word. "It's all your fault. You little slut. If it weren't for you, how could my son's future be ruined like this?" Seeing Ninglan being slapped several times, the old lady could no longer sit still. "Stop. What kind of behavior is this? What does this have to do with honor? It's Ning Shui who was improper. Having an affair with someone else first. Giving others an opportunity to take advantage." The old lady looked at me with disdain. "Ning Shui, not only do you show no remorse, but you even plotted against your own brother. Do you not understand the principle that when one prospers, all prosper, when one suffers, all suffer? The Jiang family's reputation is ruined. What good future do you have left?" I immediately threw down my teacup. "Old woman, don't pretend to be innocent. I'm not talking about you. The Jiang family is not a vegetable market. My father and mother didn't even know about this. So how did the Marquis of the Northern Frontier find out? It was your beloved Lanner who told him. When she revealed her sister's shameful deeds, didn't she think about how the family would suffer if one member was disgraced? The Marquis of the Northern Frontier had an affair with her. So why don't you say that she was promiscuous? The old woman who always talks about rules and regulations. Didn't she cover for them? You're a hypocrite who seeks fame and ignores morality. What face do you have to talk about rules?" The old woman was so angry she fell backward. "You're lying. Lanner isn't that kind of person. Stop slandering her." I laughed coldly. Whether it was nonsense or not, a quick search would reveal the truth. Two people deeply in love would surely have exchanged letters and other items. The old lady and Ninglan turned pale, but did not dare to argue. hearing that all of his daughters had secret affairs, and that even the old lady was involved. My father did not know who to scold. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier looked at Ninglan affectionately. At this point, I won't hide it anymore. I do want to marry Ninglan. Anyway, the imperial edict has already been issued, and the marriage between our two families is inevitable. Ninglan was so moved that her eyes were red. Although the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had tricked her sister and insulted her beloved brother, he had done it all for her. How could such deep affection not move her? Her father was so angry that he fell backwards. If you really like Ninglan, you should have said so. Would I have disagreed? Now you've caused so much trouble, and you still dare to mention the marriage alliance. The old lady coughed. I can see that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier is sincere about Ninglan. Now that the die is cast, we might as well let them be together. Although she was destroying a grandson and a granddaughter, she loved Ninglan the most, and no one else mattered. The reputation of the Jiang family was about to be ruined. If they didn't grab the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, Ninglan would never find such a powerful family in the future. At this moment, the old lady didn't care if others said she was biased. Her father had always cared most about the prosperity of the Jiang family. Now that the son he had pinned his hopes on was ruined, the only way to strengthen the Jiang family was through a marriage alliance. Now that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier felt indebted to the Jiang family, they could use this leverage to ensure that he would not ignore the Jiang family. Seeing that her father was moved, her mother was furious. All of you in the Jiang family are heartless and treacherous. My son and daughter are ruined, and you want Ninglan to step on them to get ahead? You're dreaming. I will not agree to register Ninglan as a legitimate daughter. If she wants to marry the Marquis of the Northern Frontier, she can marry him as a concubine. The old lady smiled with determination. Last time we went back to our hometown to worship our ancestors, I already registered Ninglan under your name, making her your legitimate daughter. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier wants to marry her, and none of you can stop him. You might as well be generous and let them be together. Upon hearing this, everyone's faces turned dark. Father stepped forward and kicked Ninglan to the ground. If it weren't for filial piety, that kick would have been aimed at the old lady. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier wanted to make Ninglan his legitimate daughter and marry her. So the old lady had already registered Ninglan as her legitimate daughter. You two are in contact and have an affair. If you had communicated with each other, none of this would have happened today. Do you think everyone is stupid? Yes. Something that could have ended happily for everyone. They had to sacrifice others to make their love seem deeper. Now look at us. We've all lost our dignity, and the entire family is being mocked by everyone. The old lady finally realized she was in the wrong and couldn't say a word. She had always believed herself to be the wisest person in the family, with everything under her control. She never imagined I could cause so much trouble. Her elder brother glared at everyone with hatred. At this moment, he felt that all his efforts for Ninglan were a joke. But he didn't know that his time to cry hadn't come yet. The next day, the imperial censor reported that Xiangguo, the eldest son of the Jiang family, had failed to cultivate his moral character, acted improperly, and disrespected the emperor's grace. Such matters between men were not considered serious. If they were to be spread around, they would merely be regarded as another scandalous affair. However, the problem was that the other party was her future brother-in-law. And moreover, this marriage had been personally arranged by the emperor. Xiangguo's actions, to put it bluntly, were tantamount to disregarding the imperial edict, which was a capital offense. My father pleaded bitterly in the imperial court, but the majesty of the imperial family could not be violated, and the emperor immediately stripped my brother of his title and official position, meaning he could never hold office again. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier was also severely reprimanded by the censor. The emperor had been worried that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had too much power. So now that he had a ready-made excuse, He took away his military power and ordered him to stay at home and reflect on his mistakes. The news reached the Jiang family, and my mother fainted on the spot. Jiang Ruozhu wanted to strangle me to death. Jiang Ningsno. Look at my fate, are you satisfied now? I forced a smile, brother. How could you say such a thing? Your sister was only thinking of your best interests. How can I defend myself against such accusations? Jiang Ruozhu rolled her eyes and fainted as well. Rumors spread throughout the capital, with some people swearing that they had known all along that Jiang Ruozhu was a hypocrite. They said that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier was in love with the Jiang family's illegitimate daughter and had fallen head over heels for her at first sight, and that he had staged this whole thing so that he could marry her in a legitimate manner. False information. Who would be so crazy? She's just an illegitimate daughter. Why go to all this trouble to marry her? Your information is outdated. According to my seventh uncle's wife's niece's sister's nephew, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier had been flirting with Jiang Ruozhu for a long time, and he asked to marry the eldest daughter of the Jiang family because she looked like his sister. So it was Wan Qing after all. Meanwhile, bookstores in the capital were booming, with popular illustrated books like My Brother is Above Me and I and My Brother Remove Our Battle robes flying off the shelves. I counted the silver coins, smiling ear to ear, and decided to stay up all night to write a few more. The Jiang family's reputation plummeted. The young women who had once intended to marry my elder brother hurriedly arranged other marriages. The wives of government officials no longer send invitations to the Jiang family. My father's hair turned white, and my mother sighed every day and never saw me again. She loved me, but compared to Jiang Ruozhu, I was not as important. Everyone in my family wanted me dead, but they did not dare to do anything at this time, for fear of giving others a chance to laugh at us. But I did not regret anything I had done. Why should I be exposed and pay the price for my mistakes? While their plots and schemes remain hidden, one's fortune is shared by all, and one's misfortune is shared by all. I silently repeated these words and laughed out loud. How true they were. A family should be united. Half a year later, Jiang Ninglan still married the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. After many trials and tribulations, the lovers were finally together. However, this time, there was none of the grandeur of the previous life. Only a few people came to the ceremony, and the dowry was poor and used to make up the numbers. Before leaving, Jiang Ninglan looked at me proudly, and the timidity in her eyes was gone. Second sister, let me persuade you. Doing more wrong will only destroy yourself. I thought of her previous life, how she and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier were deeply in love after they got married, and how the Marquis of the Northern Frontier never looked at another woman again for her sake, even replacing all the female servants around him with men. He didn't even eat female chickens, ducks, or fish. Everyone in the capital envied her for her skill in controlling her husband. I glanced at her with a half-smile. I had once been ruined by chastity, so now I was unwilling to use the same method against women. However, that didn't mean I would let her off the hook. My dear sister, I have left you a big gift. I hope you like it. 3 days after the wedding, Ning Lan's face was covered with exhaustion. The Marquis of the Northern Frontier pretended not to notice and just drank glass after glass of wine. There was no laughter at the banquet, except for me, who was eating with relish. After dinner, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier and Jiang Ruozhu went to the front yard. The old lady hurriedly comforted Ning Lan. Men in this world are fickle. You must remain calm and just give birth to a legitimate son when the time comes. When Ning Lan heard the words legitimate son, tears fell from her eyes. On their wedding night, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier swept his sleeves and left, never to enter her room again. The old lady didn't understand why and thought that the Marquis of the Northern Frontier was taking his anger out on Ning Lan because he had been reprimanded by the emperor. So she taught her many ways to win people's hearts. All men love women, so just be a good wife and take in a few concubines for him. Over time, He will naturally see your good qualities. As long as you don't give birth to an illegitimate child. Concubines are just lowly playthings and won't cause any trouble. Ning Lan nodded tearfully. But only a month later, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier became even more debauched. Ignoring the women in his harem and going to the Nanfeng Pavilion. Ning Lan finally realized what was going on and rushed to the Jiang family to cry. Jiang Ningxue. You ruined the Marquis. He. It was a rare opportunity. That day I not only gave him a drug that made him lose his senses and become infatuated, but also a drug that causes infertility and impotence. It was because I was looking for these drugs that I delayed leaving for so long, giving them the chance to catch them in the act. At first, I was worried that the drugs wouldn't work, but now I can finally rest assured. I pouted, sister. You're slandering me like this. I don't know what to say. Ning Lan threw herself at me crazily. Looking crazy, Jiang Ningxue. You'll get what you deserve. I have no grudge against you. Why are you so cruel to me? I immediately dodged and watched her fall to the ground in a mess. Although she and the Marquis of the Northern Frontier could no longer be a loving couple in this life, the Marquis of the Northern Frontier was still as uninterested in women as he was in his previous life. Thinking about it this way, she didn't lose anything. Jiang Ningxue. I won't let you off the hook. Ning Lan left after uttering those harsh words. Soon, rumors began to circulate in the capital that the eldest daughter of the Jiang family had engaged in an illicit affair and had killed her lover. Coincidentally, Song Yuron's remains were discovered, and everyone suspected that I had killed him. He. You guessed right. But unfortunately, there's no evidence. When Song Yuron saw me, he avoided me. When he left, I had someone search his room. All the letters we exchanged had already been destroyed. No one could prove that the last person he saw was me. There was no evidence to prove that I killed him. The officials from the Jingzhou prefecture came to ask a few questions, and the case was closed. It was concluded that Song Yuron had accidentally fallen off a cliff. My mother finally saw me. Her eyes were filled with hatred and reluctance. Ning Shui, now that things have come to this, your life is ruined. Is it worth it? I smiled and said, Mother, do you want to hear a story? Decades of living as a lonely ghost have driven me mad. No matter how bad things get now, they can't get much worse. Jiang Ruoxu snapped out of her depression and decided to marry a woman from a low-ranking family, have a son, and raise the next generation. But she discovered she was now a useless person. The Jiang family could no longer tolerate me. On the day I left the Jiang family, only my mother came to see me off. I hugged her one last time and then walked away without looking back. She would be heartbroken and eventually forget me, just as she had in our previous life. Chun Tao asked me, Where are we going, young lady? I took her to a Taoist temple, which I had bought with the money I had saved from selling my paintings. From now on, call me master, and you are my chief disciple. The Qingfeng Taoist temple was small and dilapidated, which was why I could afford it. That night, Chun Tao and I hid in the cellar and avoided being assassinated. I knew that the assassins had been sent by the Marquis of the Northern Frontier. He hated me for drugging him and turning him into a eunuch. He couldn't do anything to me when I was in the Jiang family, but now he finally had his chance. Chun Tao trembled, Miss. Let's flee immediately and go far away. I stroked her head and said, Don't worry. The next day, I finally met the person I had been waiting for. Zhang Derin from the Imperial Astronomical Bureau. Miss Jiang, is what you said true? I had sent him a message days ago, saying that the dike in Huayan County would collapse by the end of the month, resulting in countless casualties. At first, Zhang Derin didn't believe me, but yesterday, news of heavy rains in Huayan County for half a month reached the capital, and he finally took it seriously. In my previous life as a wandering spirit, I had heard rumors of these events, The sight of Huayan County littered with corpses is etched in my memory. I told him firmly, it's absolutely true. If I'm lying, I'm willing to accept any punishment. My only request is that you find a way to protect me. Zhang Deren thought for a moment and nodded. By the end of the month, the embankment in Huayan County breached exactly as I had predicted. Since the residents had been evacuated in advance, the casualties were minimal. The emperor rewarded me and bestowed upon me the title of Shan Daozhang. Qingfeng Monastery became a renowned Taoist temple, renovated with grandeur and elegance, and my life was safeguarded. Within the palace, I made my second prophecy to the emperor. Next May, Dangzhou will suffer a severe drought, leaving the land barren for thousands of miles. As one prophecy after another came true, no one in the capital dared to underestimate me anymore. When Chun Tao told me that people in the countryside were offering me a steal for longevity, my heart stirred, and the shadows of my past life began to fade. On that day, the sky was clear, and the sun shone brightly over the land. Extra story. The former Marquis of the Northern Frontier, Xiao Yu, had long been stripped of his title under the suppression of Jiang Ningxue, and the Marquis's mansion became the Xiao Mansion. In order to cover up the fact that he had become a useless person, Xiao Yu proclaimed to the outside world that he and Jiang Ninglan were deeply in love and would never take another wife. Even though Jiang Ninglan had not conceived a child in 3 years, Xiao Yu did not seem to mind at all. The ladies of the capital all envied Jiang Ninglan for her good fortune. Lady Xiao, I hear that Lord Xiao has dismissed all his concubines and is now devoted solely to you. What a rare gem of a man he is. Jiang Ninglan forced a stiff smile. What could she say? Should she admit that although there were no concubines in the household, there were a bunch of male favorites? He treats you so well, you should be content. At least give him an heir. I have a secret formula for conceiving a son, take it and try it, it's guaranteed to work. Hearing such words urging her to conceive again, Jiang Ninglan fled in panic. Upon returning to the Xiao Mansion, she was greeted by the carefree Xiao Yu. Oh, you're back so early. Why didn't you stay longer to listen to others praise you? Jiang Ninglan looked at the man mocking her before her, feeling a chill in her heart. She had done nothing wrong. Yet why had she ended up in this situation? Thinking of all the years she had spent enduring humiliation, she finally couldn't hold back and shouted, I don't even despise you for being a useless person. Why are you still tormenting me? Xiao Yu sneered. What right do you have to despise me? If it weren't for you constantly showing off your suffering in front of me, I wouldn't have plotted against Jiang Ningxue and been ruined by her. All of this is your fault. Jiang Ninglan's face turned pale. I never asked you to do those things. Ha ha. Jiang Ninglan, what are you pretending? If you didn't want me to do it, then why did you tell me about your older sister's private matters? Admit it, when you found out I had framed Jiang Ningxue for you. You were happy, weren't you? Jiang Ninglan couldn't refute his words. Because they were true. The two hated each other. Yet they could only continue to be entangled in this way. The once bustling Jiang mansion was now devoid of any joyful sounds. The old lady had become a true widow, and Jiang Ruozhu drank herself into oblivion every day. The only one who remained clear-headed was Zhang's wife. Now that Jiang Ningxue had become the emperor's favored Taoist master, saving countless lives, she had sent gifts to Zhang's wife several times, and the Jiang family had understood her intentions. No one in the Jiang family dared to look down on her, hoping to use her connection with Jiang Ningxue to mend relations and restore the family to its former glory. But Jiang lady simply sat in the Buddha hall. She had married into the Jiang family for so many years, giving birth to children, raising them, and tending to her husband and family. Now her children were at odds with one another, and the family was in shambles. It wasn't until her daughter told her a story that she finally understood what happens in a previous life is the result of actions in this life. Why force things? Later, Jiang Ningsno sent a letter. Mother, the spring waters of Jiangnan are green. Would you care to accompany me? Madame Jiang finally let go, tears streaming down her face as she instructed the maid to pack her belongings. At over 40 years old, she finally saw the light of spring. Fortunately, the spring light remained as bright as ever.